Good to have you with us here watching The Big Story. I'm Avni Raja, and our focus at this point in time is the soaring prices of various commodities which have dampened the festive fervor across the entire country. From vegetables to fuel to cooking gas, there's been a sharp increase in prices throughout. In fact, the price hike across commodities has been hitting the pockets of the common man. Citizens are struggling to make ends meet with their skewed budgets. So businesses have been impacted drastically as well. In fact, let's also get you the on-ground situation at this point in time and see how citizens are reacting. Let's in fact go across to our reporters. I'm being joined by Mugilan as well as Disha. Mugilan is joining us from Chennai and Disha from a fuel pump at CST in Mumbai. But let's also look at the vegetable prices that are seeing a hike as well. Before I go across to my reporters, vegetable prices of things like onion, tomatoes have seen an increase across the entire country. Vegetables have risen, the prices have risen sharply in Delhi NCR. Tomato prices have shot up to as much as 90 to 100 rupees a kg from 60 to 70 rupees a kg. That was just 2 weeks ago. Onion prices have also increased by 20 to 30 rupees and now cost anywhere between 70 to 80 rupees a kg as well. The vegetable prices have also left people teary-eyed in Mumbai, where onion prices have shot up by 10 and tomato by 20 rupees. And this is all in a span of 2 weeks. Chennai also has seen a massive surge in tomato prices from 15 to 20 rupees that was just 2 weeks ago to as much as 80 rupees a kg. Now, according to vegetable traders, the increasing fuel prices and heavy rains have caused a lot of damage to the crop, which has led to this hike. So that's really the overall scenario. And remember, this is right in the midst of the festive season here that we are talking about. Diwali also coming up soon. This is what the citizens are facing at this point in time. Let me first straight go across to Mugilan and understand what's the situation on ground there with the vegetable prices currently rising. Mugilan, what are you picking up? What are people telling you? And the kind of hit this is having on people's monthly budgets?
In last 15 days, we have seen that the prices of onion and tomato continues to inch upwards. And now the tomato has been sold somewhere around 60 rupees in Coimbatore wholesale market itself. And in a market like this is a largely retail market, the prices have crossed at least 70 rupees is what we are getting to hear from the vendors. And equally, the onion prices also have seen a sharp rise. In Coimbatore market, it is sold somewhere around 45 rupees. But here in retail market, definitely it has crossed 55 rupees. And yes, this has taken a hit on people's monthly budget. And since morning, we could speak with several people also who came to buy in vegetables. And we could definitely hear from them saying that it has hit their monthly budget. And we have a vendor also here. Now, in the price, takkali, Mehengai, vela irukudha. Eppudu nama business baadhikapattirukka?
தக்காளி இப்போ வந்து விலை ரொம்ப அதிகமாக விற்கிதுங்க. இப்போ வந்து போன வாரம்லாம் வந்து போன மாதம் தக்காளி வந்து 20 ரூபா தக்காளி விற்குது. 20 ரூபா தக்காளி விற்கும்போது இப்போ வந்து தக்காளி 70 ரூபா. நல்ல தக்காளி வாங்கினா 70 ரூபா 60 ரூபா. அது கம்மி பிஸ்னஸ் ரொம்ப பாதிக்கும். தக்காளி விலை அதிகம் இப்போ. வெங்காயமே இப்போ விலை ஏற்று இருக்கு. வெங்காயம் வந்து போன மாதம் ரேட்டு வெங்காயம் வந்து 20 ரூபா ஒரு கிலோ விற்குது. இந்த மாதம் ரேட்டு வெங்காயம் வந்து 40 ரூபா 45 ரூபா. நல்ல வெங்காயம் வாங்கினா 45 ரூபா 50 ரூபா வரைக்கும் போகுது. அது கம்மி வெங்காயமே கிடையாது. பிஸ்னஸ் ரொம்ப பாதிப்பு தான்.
So that is what we're getting to hear from the vendors here also. They also say that the business have completely gone down. And if you want to buy a good quality tomato, the price of a tomato 1 kilo is around 70 rupees. And people are not ready to buy in 1 kilos is what we are hearing. They're buying in very small quantities is what we could hear from the vendors here in Chennai. And this is the situation all across the state. The prices much varies in other districts also. But yes, the tomato or onion is not sold less than 60 rupees in any part of the state here in Tamil Nadu.
Yes, absolutely, Mugilan. Obviously, it is having a significant impact on people's budgets. So let me also go across to Disha. who's with us as well. Disha, it is fuel prices. This is, of course, not the first time. Fuel prices have been rising over the last several months. In fact, from the last year itself, fuel prices rising. Now we've seen LPG prices also, and even piped gas. So across the board, the citizen common man is facing the brunt of this rising fuel prices.
Well, that is right, Avni. It is at the end of the day the aam aadmi, a common man who has to face all the brunt of the rising prices in all the sector. We heard from Mugilan that the vegetable prices have soared in Chennai. The similar situation is in Mumbai as well, where 15 or 20 rupees rise has been seen in onion and tomato over the last 30 days. And now, of course, in terms of fuel as well. So today in Mumbai, citizens have to shell out 111 rupees for a litre of petrol and 101 rupees for a litre of diesel. So this is the 9th such hike in the month of October, and the petrol and the diesel prices have been just going up, since last year, like you rightly pointed out. And this is what we are looking at the ground level. Despite being a festival day today, Avni, we are looking at the pump being pretty much, empty. Here you can see only there's about one car here and another car which has come. And that exactly is what the citizens are saying. In fact, since morning when we are visiting the different areas of pumps, what they have told us, clearly that it is getting unaffordable because of the lockdown. Of course, few people lost their jobs. Now with festival, they have to balance everything. And if fuel keeps on getting expensive, then it is going to hit the pocket very hard. We'll try and speak to one such person here. सर, अगर आपसे बात करें, पेट्रोल और डीजल के दाम जो है वो लगातार बढ़ रहे हैं. डीजल 100 पार कर गया पर लीटर, पेट्रोल 111 पे पहुंचा है. कोई हाउस होल्ड बजट पे सच आपका बहुत इशू अफेक्ट हुआ है?
पैसा तो ज्यादा जा ही रहा है. हाँ, दिक्कत हो रहा.
और अभी फेस्टिवल का भी टाइम है, तो किस तरह से बैलेंस सब कर रहे हैं?
वही इधर से उधर करके किसी तरह चला रहा हूँ. और क्या, अभी नौकरी भी नहीं है ज्यादा, वगैरह वगैरह सब. अब सेठ लोग जो हिसाब से पगार दे रहे वही हिसाब से अपना चला रहे, क्या करेंगे. ओवर टाइम नहीं, कुछ नहीं. 2-2 बजे रात तक ओवर टाइम करो, ओवर टाइम का पैसा नहीं मिलता है.
और फिर भी ये जो है अपना पेट्रोल और डीजल तो उस हिसाब से देना ही पड़ता है.
तो देना ही पड़ेगा सेठ लोग को, तो वो तो काम करना है तो देना ही पड़ेगा ना, तो मजबूरी है.
So here, Avni, we heard from one such common citizen that, lockdown has made things difficult for them in the first place, but the rising prices of all the commodities like vegetables, fuel and everything is only adding to the burden, and specifically during the festival time, it is an additional expense and cost as well.
All right, Disha, thank you so much for getting us all of those details and those voices as well. Obviously, it is a difficult time for citizens. Mugilan, Disha, thank you for getting us all of those details. Let's, in fact, bring in some more perspective here. We've got joining us on the show is Madhavan Narayanan, senior journalist, and Dr. Madhukar Gupta, former Additional Secretary, Department of Public Enterprises. Thank you, both of you, for joining us at this point in time. Madhavan, I want to come to you first in terms of, what we've been seeing. It just seems to be one after the other across the board for the last year or so. Everything is seeing an increase, and now we are in the festive season and in the midst of the pandemic. So this is really a lot of pressure on the common man's budgets.
Well, it's not just the timing. It's also the fact that there are various factors at work. The global oil prices have risen significantly, and that is driving price rises across the board, and that is one factor. The other factor is the tomato crop has been affected by floods in several parts of the country. That is affecting the supply, but the timing couldn't be worse, because just when the economy is trying to come out of the COVID hit, depression, and just when people think that thanks to vaccination, life is back to normal, this is coming like a double whammy. From a perspective of how the government manages this, we need to understand that this government has been playing, I said this the other day also on Mirror Now, that they have been playing copybook economics, forgetting that economics is in the end about ordinary people. At least it ought to be when it comes to a democratic country with a huge population such as India. So to put things in perspective, when the Narendra Modi government came to power, uh, one of the biggest blessings Mr. Modi had was that the oil prices globally plunged from what went into a peak of 130 odd dollars per barrel during the UPA days to something like $35 a barrel, which means you're talking about one third, one fourth level. Now that was a blessing for the government, but that blessing wasn't properly used for two reasons. One is that uh, experiments like demonetization were tried out, and there was a bad bank loan problem and all that. But at the same time, it's important to remember that this government very seriously believes, it actually believes in the fact that you should not carry deficits, and the government should actually pass on the pains of global prices to ordinary people. Now, that is politically questionable. And in a country where there are other news headlines every day about somebody earning 100 crore a day or 1,000 crore a day among wealthy people, it creates social dissensions and it's considered morally repugnant. And of course, there is a political problem there. But this government believes that they are spending on infrastructure. They are also spending on free vaccinations. And that they believe is being partially subsidized by government finances. And that limits the resources for the government in a way that they cannot get on this. The other thing they say is the GST has not been cut because of state governments not wanting it. Or they also say things that oil bonds were issued by the UPA government in order to cushion prices, in order to help oil companies not increase the prices. And the BJP government is paying the price for what the Congress-led government did. But, in politics, you inherit the good with the bad. So just as Mr. Modi inherited the positive thing called the Aadhaar, which was set up during UPA, he's also inherited a negative thing called the oil bonds, which was also set up during the UPA.
Yes.
Net, we'll have to understand that
Yes.
this government is more interested in the orthodoxy of textbook economics than concern for the middle class or for the less privileged.
Yes.
And that is becoming politically controversial. And you can see it on the streets, in the show, in the way your reporters presented the issue.
Yes, absolutely. And Mr. Narayanan, just to point out that oil bonds excuse that we keep hearing from the center doesn't even hold, because it's a very, very small fraction. If we actually do the math, it's a very small fraction of the amount, and that cannot possibly be an excuse for saying that fuel prices cannot be lowered. And the other point that I just want to point out here before going...
Let me put it in a one-liner for you, Avni.
Yes.
That headline management and bottom lines at home budgets are two different things. You cannot set right the bottom lines in the homes by managing headlines in the TV. So that is something that this government has to worry about. And I'm afraid things have come to a point. If you take the farmers' agitation and the petrol prices in the cities together, I do see economic pressures on the government that will have a political impact. How much it will be is for us to wait and see, because if they try to do some firefighting and bring it back to normal in a couple of months, they are sort of home.
Yes, absolutely. And Dr. Gupta, just to add to that, the other aspect with respect to what's been going on in the pandemic isn't, if this is not the time when governments are supposed to dip into their coffers, dip into the reserves and help citizens out, I don't know what else you would call, unprecedented, or a time when that actually has to be done. And on the other hand, you also have when the fuel prices, when the oil prices across the globe had crashed, we saw the excise price, the duty being hiked considerably. Now that the reverse is happening, there is no word on reducing the excise duty. If nothing else, at least that balance can be maintained. Why isn't it time that the government actually steps in now?
Well, if you look at economics, why do we have duties? Basically, there are two objectives. One is to earn revenue for the government, and second is to de-incentivize people from using whatever they're using, whether it's diesel or petrol, whatever. So now, where is it that you want to pitch your excise duties or GST when you're selling petrol or diesel? So now I would really encourage state governments to bring down whatever duties or taxes they are collecting, also the central government, because once the diesel petrol prices change, they increase, it has a long-term impact on everything. The prices of whether it's vegetables, whatever. So it has a direct correlation with the prices at which we buy different commodities, especially commodities which are heavy to transport, which we buy in bulk. So I think it's time where the central government and also especially the state governments take a lead. Let's say the central government is not able to take a decision immediately. The respective state governments are free to take decisions on whatever taxes they impose on sale of diesel or petrol. So the time has come when they have to be proactive because it impacts, for example, farming. A lot of farmers use diesel for growing crops because you have an insufficient supply of electricity. So farmers also get very directly impacted by changes in fuel prices, especially diesel. Likewise, LPG. Now, the budget of any household, especially the middle class or lower middle class, it is impacted by LPG prices. In addition, every second year or so, we hear the story about rising onion prices, tomato prices. What are your ministries doing? What is your public distribution system doing? Why don't you ask officials or ministers who are handling the PDS or who are handling the civil supplies department? There are hardly any shortages. There are hardly any changes in production, and population also changes over a long period of time. So how is it now to talk about mustard oil? A kg of mustard oil used to cost about 80 rupees last year, and now it is more than 180 rupees. How do you explain? What is the rationale? The production of oil seeds and including mustard oil has gone up. But why has the prices of mustard oil doubled? I remember I used to be the managing director of the Dairy Federation of Saras in Rajasthan. Every Diwali season, the ghee prices would go up. And we took a conscious decision that we will hold the prices stable in the market. So if private operators increase the prices, government-run, cooperative-run dairies, cooperative-run institutions, what are the marketing federations doing in respective states as far as our Safal or your chain of stores which are in Delhi or in different states? So what are they doing regarding the prices of onions or tomatoes or other commodities? So they have a big role to play. It's not shortages. It is not, prices can't change for normal reasons. These are artificial scarcities which have been created by vested interests in different places. So we have to get after them, put our act together, and ensure that, especially in the festival season, marriages will come, festivities there, Diwali, Puja, whatever. So now we have to step up and increase our oversight over the distribution systems, over the supply chains, right up to the consumer.
Right.
So that
Right. Absolutely, Dr. Gupta. Your points are completely valid here, and these are certain large-scale issues that perhaps need to be addressed. But in the meantime, what is the big question? And, Mr. Narayanan, there seems to be some sort of, when we see the prices going up every day, 20, 30 paise petrol and diesel keeps going up, somewhere people don't have a choice but to accept it. What does one do? And then somewhere the governments feel that, okay, let it just go on. We don't need to step in right now because that's okay. And that's not right.
Let me address it my own way, Avni.
Yeah.
If I was the finance minister, what would I do? These are not easy choices for any government, because let us face it, Dr. Gupta put it very well in terms of distribution and supply chain, but there is a limit to which the government can play the distribution and supply chain game when there is a global surge in oil prices, because the maneuver for, the elbow room for maneuver is very limited. So the correct way for the government is to manage the psychology of the people by inflicting the pain in measured doses. Just as a hospital would not ask you to come every hour to get a new injection, you shouldn't ask the people to bear with a petrol price hike every 2 weeks or 3 weeks and sometimes even less. So there has to be a price stabilization fund, and no government should be in a hurry to increase or reduce prices, but they should have what is called, a price band. Right now, RBI has an overall inflation price band. The central government should have its own petroleum price band and say, look, if it goes up by 10%, we will absorb the shock. If it goes up by 15%, we'll pass on the 5% of the shock, but we won't do it at one shot. But we don't mind taking a small bit of deficit. And there has to be a finessed approach to this. This, I'm afraid, the copybook approach of the Modi government is completely lacking. They are slightly smug about this. I think I said this the other day that, they take economics more and economists more seriously than what people will feel about it. They think that they are giving a bitter medicine to the people, but sometimes people do throw up if it is too bitter.
Yes, absolutely, Madhavan Narayanan and Dr. Madhukar Gupta, thank you so much for joining us with your perspective. This, of course, is an important issue, and especially since we are in the midst of the festive season, it is all across the board that the common man is facing this additional burden amidst the pandemic. And in some breaking news that's coming in, stubble burning is significantly down this year is what the government is saying, and that there are fewer farm fires in 2021 compared to last year. So 4,854 farm fires this year in the last 1 month. This is the latest breaking that's coming in as far as what the government is saying with regard to stubble burning and farm fires at this point in time. And in more breaking news coming in, Tamil Nadu Chief Minister has raised the issue of cracker ban. Stalin has written to Delhi, Haryana, Odisha, Rajasthan CMs and asked states to reconsider the cracker ban. This is CM Stalin here saying that a blanket ban on crackers is not reasonable. Livelihoods of 8 lakh people will be hit, and also saying that the cracker sales should be allowed within set norms. Well, with that, it's a wrap on this edition of The Big Story. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned tomorrow now.